This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
All right, so we did the coaches, executives with the most pressure on them in a prior podcast, Greg. Let's now look at some of the players that you have listed as far as pressure. And we start with the big guy in the middle on defense, and that's Christian Barmore.
Yeah, so this is number 5, Christian Barmore for me. He could be a little bit higher on the list. To me, this is all about the contract that he received, the contract extension. Some might say it's a little early for him. Some are worried about his knee and, whether there's a long-term thing there. There's also the added sort of pressure for Christian, if he buys into it, like just in the locker room, that there are guys who have reacted to his contract extension, look at him and say, yeah, the kid's talented, but he hasn't really done anything. Whereas, I've been in the league 7-8 years. I've done a lot for this team. And, they're not giving me money. And I'm talking about guys like Davon Godchaux, Matthew Judon. If they don't do anything to the contracts for those guys, now all of a sudden, it becomes an interesting locker room dynamic between the guys. And I'm sure a lot of people would be like, oh, that's overblown. These guys are professionals. That stuff goes on, all the time. And we don't know whether anything's going to happen, but to me, the bottom line is, Christian Barmore after the contract, the reaction to some of his teammates, to me, there's pressure on him to deliver this year. And, so that's why I have him on the list.
Has to be an impact guy. He's getting paid like an impact guy after this season, got that extension. He was fantastic the last 2 months of 23. When you kind of draw up this defense, we all know this team has to be led by its defense. I think you're going to see a lot of run game and defense in 2024. And, Barmore is a big part of that defensive equation. If he can impact games the way he did in the final 2 months of last year, you've got Judon coming off of the edge. It helps Judon because you can't necessarily double him. It'll help guys like Joshua Uche and Keon White get to the quarterback. It should help Davon Godchaux as well, because every single double team that Barmore forces the offensive line to partake in is good news for the defense. So, Barmore is going to be a guy they lean on, and he's got to be ready physically. He's got to be ready mentally to be that kind of guy we saw the last 8 weeks of last season, this entire season in 2024. We'll see if he can do it. Jonathan Jones, contract year, going to be 32 years old next season. Greg, your thoughts on JJ?
Yeah, well, a couple things in terms of the pressure on him. He's made a decent amount in his career, but he's going to have one more swipe at it. Sometimes cornerbacks age well, or they can transition to, safety and other things. So he's had some injury-plagued seasons. He sort of needs the ball out this year if he wants one more bite at the contract apple. So there's a lot of pressure from that aspect, but also just from a team aspect. Like, they need Jonathan Jones to play well. We've talked about it. Cornerback is one of those positions that's thin. Are they going to have him on the outside where we've seen him get picked on? Is he going to, start as the 2 cornerbacks, and then when they go to 3 cornerbacks, when they go to nickel, is he going to go inside? Is he still an impact slot cornerback? Slot cornerbacks get paid even if they're older. But I think, for this defense to be good and for this team to be good, they have to play man-to-man. We know Christian Gonzalez can. Can Jonathan Jones still do that? Can Marcus Jones? Can Alex Austin? Can all these guys do that? And it starts with Jonathan Jones because a lot of things sort of work off of him in terms of the depth at cornerback.
We got our final 3 as far as players with the most pressure on them, according to Greg Bedard. We'll get to those final 3 in a minute. But I did want to mention this. I was at Monday Night Raw last night at TD Garden with Kelly, and I was at the bar, shocker, getting a beer with Kel. And as I was standing there, somebody by the name of Luke came up to me and introduced himself and said that he listens to the podcast. He's a fan and all of that. And I thanked Luke. He's a hardcore football guy. But I will say this. I don't know if this happens to you, Greg. I felt a little distracted in the moment, and maybe I wasn't as conversational as I should have been with Luke. The conversation was pretty quick. So if Luke is listening or watching, I really appreciate it, man. We thank you. We thank everybody who supports this podcast. And next time I will be a little bit more honed in and less worried about being next up in line and trying to figure out where our seats are right before the show starts. So
yeah, that definitely happened. That definitely happened because sometimes sometimes we forget because, we're not the Michael Felgers of the world. And, we forget that, that we're sort of public figures and people know us. And sometimes you forget about that and like you're at an event. Like I saw a bunch of people. I went to Hootie and the Blowfish at Fenway with the fam. I'm a big Hootie fan from way back in the day. Like I saw them at 5 Points in Columbia, South Carolina before they hit it big, and had a great time. And there were a bunch of people in my section that knew me and were, asking me about my predictions for the season and stuff like that. So that was cool. But sometimes you're not in the right mindset and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. And also there was a guy at Tasty Burger who shouted me out. So it was a lot of fun.
Who doesn't love going to an MLB game during the summer, especially with the Red Sox turning things around? The ballpark has always been home to me and my family, and we'll definitely get there at some point, and we'll use Game Time to get us there. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, viewed from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. I got to tell you, I've been on the app. I buy tickets. We're going to go to a Red Sox game, I think, in a couple weeks. I went through Game Time. I love how you can see the views from all the seats in the venue. That, especially at Fenway, with obstructed view and all that stuff, that's a must for me. I need to know where I'm sitting. I need to know what the view is. I don't want to be pointed towards center field when everything's going on my right and have to be in traction for the next week. So I love the Game Time app for giving me that view because I have to have it. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed.
Yeah. So Luke, I don't know if you're even listening to this or watching this. If you are, you know who you are. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your support. And so does Greg. All right, let's get to the top three on your list, Greg, as far as players with the most pressure. Number 3, you've got KJ Osborne.
Yeah, this was sort of their quote unquote big addition from the outside on an offense that obviously was not good last year. So, KJ is who he is. Maybe this is more pressure on Elliot Wolf and the front office because they sort of identified him as sort of a mid-tier free agent that maybe the analytics really liked and have some upside here. But with Kendrick Bourne, we don't know what's going to go on with him. We don't know when the rookies are going to hit. Are they going to be able to play right away? Are they ready for the NFL? KJ Osborne has been a productive guy in a really good offense in Minnesota. They had Justin Jefferson and then Jordan Addison. And so he went down the pecking order a little bit, but that's, those are 2 first-round rare talents at the receiver position. So he sort of took a medium deal for the Patriots. If he can come in here and really be high impact and show that he can be a really good number 2 in this league, he could set himself up for life. But so in terms of future and his contract, but also this team this year, this offense, they need KJ to produce.
Yeah, I love the KJ Osborne one. We both really like Jalen Polk. We both believe he's an NFL receiver. He'll contribute in his rookie season, but you don't want to ask him to be the guy in this offense right off the bat. At least that's not a perfect scenario for you. So you have his part of this equation. You've got Javon Baker, who did not really take part in minicamp due to injury. So, where is Baker in his development? Is he going to be able to get on the field early this season? Kendrick Bourne's injury situation, is he going to start the year on PUP? What's going to happen with Bourne? It would be nice to walk into the year feeling like you've got Pop Douglas and at least one other guy that you can feel really good about contributing right away week 1, as high as we are on Jalen Polk. So Osborne could help that. He could be that guy to go along with Pop, and let's hope that he is. All right, we got 2 more. both on the offensive line. Let's begin at left tackle with Chuks Okorafor.
Yeah, so I think we all know the deal. A lot of people are underwhelmed at Okorafor and what Elliott Wolf has done at left tackle. But this is what's going to come down to this offense. Can they block it right? And it starts at left tackle. Internally, they have a lot of faith in Okorafor. They think they've really hit on somebody. Again, another similar to Osborne, more of a mid-tier guy that, in the right scheme, with the right coaching, then this guy can be better than he's been so far this year. But they're risking a lot on this. And we're not just talking about the offense. We're talking about the future franchise and Drake May whenever he gets into the game. That's probably where the most pressure is for Okorafor, is if May plays, not to get the future of the franchise killed. And so there is going to be a lot of pressure on him to make sure that he performs to keep May safe. But there's no question that he needs to play really well if this team has a chance to compete.
Chuks is just gigantic to this football team if he actually does prove that he can be a starting left tackle in the league. Because if he proves that, now your offensive line is so much in a better spot. You don't have to worry about that left tackle position this year. It brings you some stability, but also it could have far-reaching implications, Greg, to the future of this team. As I mentioned just a little while ago, if this team does end up with a top 6, 7, 8 pick in the draft next year, if you have your left tackle figured out, if Chuks proves to be a starting player at that position, you now can do some other things with that top 10 pick in next year's draft. You might be able to look at a wide receiver. You might be able to look at, best player available on the defense. It gives you a lot of different flexibility, because I would imagine that they would pay Chuks if he proved to be that guy with all the cap space they have right now and going into next offseason. So he changes the dynamic, and he not only changes the dynamic for 2024, he changes that dynamic for maybe 2025, 26, 27, 28. So he is just huge when it comes to significance and importance for this football team this year and maybe moving forward. The number one guy on your list, another offensive lineman, you wrote about him last week talking to some sources, and that is, of course, Mike Onwenu.
Yeah, Nick, for me, this is all about the contract. I mean, he's getting paid $19 million a year. And when you agree to a contract like that, there is a certain level that is expected. And, is he going to be a right tackle? Is he going to be a right guard? If he's at right guard, he better be a damn good right guard, like he's been for the most part in his career. He better be in shape. Is he in shape? I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe he comes back to camp. Maybe he's in a little bit better shape. Does he stay on the field? Is he durable? Mike didn't ask for this. The Patriots handed him this money, but it's just the way it goes. You get paid $19 million a year as an offensive lineman. You are expected to be Pro Bowl, all pro level type guy. And so that comes with a lot of pressure. And, not only they're basically looking for him to lead this offensive line along with David Andrews this year. And for Onwenu, he's part of the future. He's got to be the guy that everybody looks to and be like, all right, nobody's getting past him. He's blocking at a high rate. He's doing his job. He's reliable. He's on the field. All those things come with the contract. He didn't ask for it, but that's just the business, man.
You go into this year and you're hoping that you have at least two guys on that O-line that you know about and that you feel confident about, and that's David Andrews and that's Onwenu. And if Onwenu, for whatever reason, whether it's a shape thing, a lack of love thing, or his play falls off for some unknown reason, man, that really affects this offensive line. And we just talked about Chuks. If Onwenu has a drop in play for any reason and Chuks doesn't show up on the left side, now you have a bit of a disaster, because now you're banking on Calvin Anderson. You might be looking at someone like Layden Robinson playing right guard. You might be hoping for Cole Strange to get back so you can swing Sidy Sow back to right guard. There are so many questions about this O-line if Onwenu doesn't work out, and it's on him now. As you said, Greg, you got the money. You have high expectations now as far as your play with that money you're going to get. And, man, you got to make it happen, because if you don't, it's going to be a mess.